Hi, I'm Elena Brooks, and yes, you read that right. My sister booked her birthday party at my hotel without my permission. She walked in with her fiancé's family like she owned the place. She smiled, laughed, waved at staff, and then pointed straight at me and said, "Remove that homeless woman." That homeless woman was me. But that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was that my entire family knew. They planned it. They expected me to pay for it, quietly. The second I stepped onto my parents' porch in New Orleans, my chest tightened in that familiar way. Like my body already knew what my heart was about to remember. Early June. Thick humidity. The smell of jasmine and crawfish hanging in the air. I hadn't been home in nearly 5 months. Not because I was busy, but because I knew exactly how this visit would end. My mother, Margaret Brooks, opened the door with a smile that never quite reached her eyes. "Elena, sweetheart." Still wearing black, she chirped, kissing the air beside my cheek. "You know, a little color wouldn't kill you." I forced a laugh. "Hi, Mom." My father, Thomas Brooks, was already seated at the table, halfway through his lasagna. His eyes stayed locked on his plate like it might solve world hunger if he stared long enough. And then there was Victoria. My younger sister lounged on the love seat like she was posing for a luxury brand campaign, designer dress, perfect hair, flawless makeup. A dress I was certain she hadn't paid for. Well, she said, standing slowly. New Orleans' favorite mystery woman returns. "Did you finally finish alphabetizing your spreadsheets?" I didn't react. I just nodded and took my seat. The table was set with my mother's finest china, the kind she only used for holidays, interventions, or announcements that were never really requests. That should have been my first warning. Dinner was painfully stiff. Mom complimented the weather. Dad mentioned traffic. Victoria posted a selfie mid-meal, carefully angling her phone so my face stayed out of frame. I should have walked out right then. Instead, I took a bite of bread and told myself it was just dinner. Then Victoria stood up. "I have something exciting to share," she announced, lifting her glass. "My 33rd birthday is coming up, and it's going to be iconic. Kardashian-level iconic." I kept chewing. "I found the perfect rooftop in the warehouse district," she continued. "Champagne wall. Live music. Drone footage. Horse-drawn carriage. Think Paris, but with better lighting." She paused, letting the moment breathe. "Total cost? Just under $150,000. I nearly choked. "And you," she said, pointing directly at me, "get to make it happen. Come on, sis. It's not like you're doing anything real with your money." The room went silent. Even the ceiling fan sounded like it stopped turning. I looked at my mother, waiting for her to shut it down. Instead, she tilted her head sympathetically. "Sweetheart," she said gently, "it really would mean a lot to your sister. You've been so blessed lately. Isn't it time you gave back a little?" My father kept chewing. Didn't look up. Didn't say a word. That's when it finally hit me. I wasn't family. I was funding. I excused myself before I said something I couldn't take back. Back at my place, I sat at the kitchen island with a glass of wine, trying to scrub the evening from my memory. My phone buzzed. Naomi Reed, my operations manager, and the only person in my life with a functioning moral compass. "Check Victoria's Instagram story," she texted. I opened it. Split screen. On one side, Victoria sipping champagne with her event planner. On the other, a video of my car pulling into my driveway, windows down, paint slightly faded. The caption read, "When your rich sister lives like she's in witness protection." The comments were already pouring in. I stared at the screen, jaw clenched so tight it hurt. She thought this was just a joke. A birthday party. She had no idea what she'd just started. 2 days passed. I didn't return a single call. Didn't reply to any texts from my family. Didn't even open the group chat I knew was filling up with carefully worded guilt. I turned off notifications and buried myself in work, zoning permits, renovation schedules, spreadsheets so dense they made my eyes ache. My hands kept moving, but my chest stayed tight the entire time. Victoria's video was still up. Still gaining likes. Still being reshared by people who didn't even know me. People who thought it was hilarious that I drove a 10-year-old car. That I didn't flash money like I'd stolen it. She's not going to stop, Naomi said, tapping her fingers against the conference table. I know, I replied quietly. But she's not the one I'm worried about. Naomi raised an eyebrow, waiting. I didn't explain. I'd seen this coming for years, not all at once, but in pieces. Like water leaking behind drywall. Slow. Hidden. Rot spreading quietly. Now the wall had cracked. That afternoon, I was reviewing contracts when I saw a familiar silhouette through the frosted glass of my office door. My stomach dropped. My mother never made appointments. She breezed in like she owned the place, arms full. I thought I'd stop by, Margaret Brooks said cheerfully, placing a Tupperware container on my desk. Banana bread. She glanced around the office. Still no receptionist. You really should make this place feel more welcoming. I forced a smile. Hi, Mom. She sat down like she'd been invited. You're working too hard, she said. You always do. Just like your father. Though he was never great with money. You get that from me. I stayed silent. I could feel Naomi's eyes on me through the glass wall, but I didn't call her in. Then Margaret reached into her handbag and pulled out a cream-colored envelope. I brought something for you to look at, she said lightly, like it was a recipe or a Christmas card. I opened it slowly. Inside was a printed budget breakdown. At the top, in neat font, Victoria Brooks, 33rd birthday dream event. Halfway down the page, underlined in pink highlighter, venue contribution, Elena Brooks, $150,000, confirmed. My throat went dry. Confirmed. I repeated sharply. Who confirmed this? Margaret's smile didn't budge. Sweetheart, let's not make this harder than it needs to be, she said calmly. You know Victoria doesn't have this kind of money. And your father and I, we are on a fixed income now. She leaned forward slightly. She's your sister. I set the envelope down like it was toxic. She humiliated me online, I said. She mocked my life. Margaret waved a hand dismissively. Oh, she was just being playful. She's going through a phase. I stared at her. You're really asking me to foot the bill for someone who just used me as a punchline for her followers? I'm not asking, she replied smoothly. I'm showing you the plan. There it was again. Not requested. Not discussed. Just decided. You've always been the responsible one, she continued. This is what's expected. Expected. I picked up the banana bread and handed it back to her. Thanks for the bread, I said flatly. Her expression tightened, wounded, like I'd slapped her. Don't be like this, Elena, she said. You're being dramatic. I think you've confused the definition of that word, I replied. She stood, smoothing her blouse like she'd just closed a deal. Let me know if you want me to send over the planner's information, she said sweetly. You're going to love her. Very boutique. Then she walked out, leaving the scent of her perfume and that envelope behind. I didn't tear it up. I didn't scream. I walked to the window and stared down at the street below, jaw locking into place. They hadn't even asked. They'd just assumed I'd pay for silence. I stood there longer than I realized, watching nothing, until the light outside faded. Eventually, I turned off the office lights and went home. The banana bread sat on my kitchen counter, wrapped in cellophane like some kind of peace offering. My mother used to bake that same recipe when I was sick as a child. I used to think it meant love. Now it felt like a warning label wrapped in sugar. I poured a glass of wine and opened my laptop, trying to focus on anything but them. Lease renewals. Property maintenance. Payroll. My hands didn't move. That's when the memory hit me. I was 10 years old. Hospital bed. White sheets. Machines blinking softly beside me. My mother sat in a stiff recliner, wrapped in her coat, stroking my hair. "You're the reason I'm strong," she whispered. "You saved me from myself, Elena." The next night, I overheard her on the phone with my father. "We gave up everything for her," she snapped. "I quit my job. You're working night shifts like a mule. I don't care what it takes, we're not leaving her in some awful facility." After she hung up, she smiled at me like nothing happened. "We gave up so much for you," she said softly. "Just promise you'll never forget that." I was 10. I nodded. Back then, I thought it was love. Now I knew better. My chest ached as the memory faded, leaving me alone in my quiet kitchen, an adult now, successful, capable, and still somehow expected to carry debts that were never mine. The freezer hummed softly. Frozen dinners. An old bottle of vodka pushed to the back. I stared at the banana bread for a long moment before opening the freezer and sliding it inside, right between the frozen peas and the ice tray. "I'm not your debt to collect," I whispered. "I'm not your redemption story." I didn't cry. I didn't smile either. But for the first time in years, something under my feet felt solid. The next morning, I was back at my desk downtown before the coffee shop across the street even turned on its lights. I hadn't slept much, but I didn't feel tired. I felt sharp. Like my body had decided it was done wasting energy on emotions, and was ready to move in straight lines. My inbox filled with the usual, vendor confirmations, fall wedding inquiries, floral proposals, but none of it held my attention. Then Naomi walked in, holding a manila envelope like it might explode. "Courier dropped this off 10 minutes ago," she said. "It's from Victoria's fiancé's assistant. Marked urgent." She placed it on my desk. Guess whose name it's addressed to? Printed in elegant serif font beneath an embossed logo, Elena Brooks. I opened it slowly. Inside was a thick, glossy contract packet, heavy paper, gold trim, color-coded tabs. It looked like a standard venue reservation agreement. Until I flipped to page 6. Tucked into a subclause under liability adjustments, in painfully small print, I read, "In the event the primary booking party fails to remit payment in full within 30 business days, the listed family contact assumes responsibility for all unpaid balances, fees and penalties, including legal and collection costs." I blinked. "Read it again." Then laughed, short and dry. "She really thought I wouldn't read this," I said. Naomi crossed her arms. "She thought guilt would sign it for you." My fingers tightened around the edge of the packet, not enough to crumple it, just enough to feel resistance. I didn't say anything for a long moment. Then I slid the entire contract into my lower desk drawer. "Evidence. You know," I said calmly, "if she put half this effort into managing her own finances, she wouldn't need a backup wallet with my face on it." Naomi smirked. "Want me to shred it?" "No," I said. "Let her wonder." I opened my email and typed a new message. No greeting. No warmth. Subject, Contract request: we do not process documents submitted through emotional channels. All future communications must be routed through our legal department. Unsolicited contracts will not be acknowledged. E. Brooks. I hit send. Then I opened my calendar, scrolled to next week, and created a new recurring event. Title: Monitor Financial Setups. Family. I stared at the screen for a second longer than necessary. That's the last time they catch me off guard, I whispered. This wasn't heartbreak. This wasn't betrayal. This was business. And in business, I don't scream. I build walls so high people feel them before they ever see them. Saturday mornings at Somerset used to be my calm. Clipboard in hand. Quiet walkthroughs. Checking linens, lighting, flower placements, like a conductor tuning an orchestra before the guests arrived. But that morning, the air felt different. Charged. Off. Naomi trailed behind me, tablet in hand, reviewing system updates. Did you approve white gardenias for next weekend's VIP? She asked. No, I said immediately. I haven't touched next weekend's calendar. Her eyebrows pulled together. Because someone did. The request includes ice sculptures, imported candles from Provence, and a special sound permit for live music. I walked faster. In the back office, I logged into the internal system, bypassing the third-party event manager portal. There it was. Somerset Grand Luxe package booked via external agency. Date: Victoria's birthday weekend. No phone call. No email. No permission. She booked my venue like I was a stranger. She's trying to force your hand, Naomi said quietly. If it's already moving forward, you'll look petty cancelling it. It was smart. Desperate, but smart. I opened the security camera archive from the night before. And there she was. Victoria. High heels clicking across the marble floor. Laughing. Gesturing wildly. She spun in a slow circle, arms outstretched, showing off the space like it already belonged to her. She's acting like she owns the place, Naomi muttered. I leaned back in my chair, eyes locked on the screen. She thinks I won't touch her in public, I said calmly. Naomi stayed silent. Don't cancel anything, I said finally. She turned toward me. You're letting her go through with it. I'm letting her bury herself. I opened a new folder on my desktop. SC, Unauthorized booking inside it, a subfolder, Communications document everything, I said. Every request. Every change. Every assumption. Victoria wanted this party to be her crowning moment. I intended to make sure she earned every inch of it.by Wednesday afternoon. I was working from my home office, windows cracked just enough to let in the scent of gardenia from the front yard. For the first time in days, I'd found a rhythm. Contracts sorted. Floor plans revised. Second cup of coffee cooling beside my laptop. Silence, real silence. Then my phone buzzed. Naomi, you might want to check ballroom camera 3. It's happening. I didn't ask what she meant. I clicked into the live surveillance feed without hesitation. Somerset's ballroom filled my screen, crystal chandeliers glowing, gold-trimmed sconces casting soft light across the marble floor. And then I saw her. Victoria. Storming across the room in 5-inch stilettos, already mid-rant. This is the color scheme, she snapped. Are you serious right now? This looks like a middle school prom. She waved her arms toward the decorator, who stood frozen beside a half-finished centerpiece. The florist flinched as Victoria ripped a rose from the arrangement and threw it to the floor. You call this luxury? This is depressing. My followers are going to drag me for this. A young staff member walked by carrying folded linens. Victoria snapped her fingers. You, linen girl. That's not the fabric I ordered. Is anyone here literate? The girl froze, startled. English clearly wasn't her first language. She gave a timid smile and kept walking. Victoria rolled her eyes. Unbelievable. You let amateurs run this place. Then she grabbed a clipboard from a nearby table, scanned it, and slammed it down so hard it skidded across the marble floor. I didn't flinch. I didn't blink. I just watched. That's when Naomi stepped into frame. Calm. Straight-backed. Voice steady. This is a private venue under contract, she said clearly. And our staff deserves professional respect. Victoria turned slowly, eyes scanning Naomi like she was dirt on her shoe. Oh please, she scoffed. Spare me the lecture. Do you even know who I am? Naomi didn't hesitate. Do you? For one full second, the room went silent. Victoria laughed sharply and turned away, muttering something about calling her lawyer and incompetent staff. I rewound the footage. Played it again. Then again. Her face. Her voice. Her entitlement. All recorded. I minimized the video and opened a folder waiting on my desktop. Incident response inside it. Client policy, Section 3.2, grounds for termination, and ban hostile behavior toward staff. Defamation of venue. Willful disruption of operations. Every box checked. I dragged the video file into the folder. She thought she was playing a private game of pretend. Instead, she handed me everything I needed. 2 days later, Somerset's ballroom looked like it belonged on the cover of a magazine. Orchids lined the banisters. Ivory linens draped the tables. Golden chairs shimmered under the chandeliers. Victoria walked in like a movie star, hips swaying, breathy laughter echoing off the marble walls. Her fiancé, Ethan Monroe, followed closely behind, quiet, attentive, already distant. His parents entered last. Claire Monroe surveyed the room with a practiced eye, the kind that measured value without saying a word. Richard Monroe moved more slowly, deliberate, observing how the air shifted as people walked through it. Victoria gestured dramatically toward the grand staircase. Isn't it perfect, she gushed. It screams legacy. From my office upstairs, I watched everything through the security feed. Naomi stood near the entrance, greeting them with flawless professionalism. She glanced up toward the camera and gave the slightest nod. Time. I adjusted the cuffs of my navy blazer, straightened my spine, and waited. Down below, Victoria launched into one of her rehearsed monologues, imported chandeliers, exclusive access, connections she never actually named. Claire tilted her head. And who owns the venue? She asked. Victoria smiled too fast. Oh, we have connections. Before she could scramble for recovery, Naomi stepped forward and tapped her tablet. The music cut. Silence dropped over the room like a curtain. And I began to descend the stairs. My heels clicked against the marble, slow, steady, intentional. Every eye turned. I stopped halfway down, met Victoria's gaze, and offered the faintest smile. Then I continued. Welcome to Somerset, I said, extending my hand to Claire. I'm Elena Brooks, owner and creative director of this estate. Richard blinked. Claire's eyebrow lifted, interest flickering behind her composure. Victoria looked like the floor had vanished beneath her. You own this place, she stammered. But you live in that tiny house. A smart businesswoman doesn't wear her assets on her sleeve, I replied calmly. She builds them brick by brick, and lets them speak for themselves. Claire smiled slowly. How refreshing, she said. I was beginning to think discretion no longer existed. Richard nodded. Impressive, Miss Brooks. Ethan looked at me differently now. Not pity. Not confusion. Recognition. Victoria stood frozen, mouth opening and closing, nothing coming out. I didn't gloat. I simply turned to Naomi. Please escort the Monroes to the East Terrace, I said. I'll join you shortly. As they moved away, Victoria lingered behind, breathing shallow, fists clenched. I walked past her without looking. For the first time in my life, I didn't need their approval. We moved onto the East Terrace slowly, like nothing had just cracked open behind us. The Monroe family admired the grounds with a quiet, practiced elegance, nodding thoughtfully, speaking in low voices, measuring value without needing to announce it. The fountain caught the late afternoon light, water glinting softly. Claire Monroe pulled me aside near the stone railing, her gaze steady. You built all of this, she asked. From the ground up, I replied. She inhaled slowly, then gave me a look only women with experience know how to give, half evaluation, half recognition. You're exactly the kind of woman our family respects, she said. Quiet strength. Real results. Behind us, I could feel Victoria trying, and failing, to reinsert herself into the conversation. Her laughter sounded too loud now. Her compliments rehearsed. Then her voice cracked. Wait, Claire, can we just talk for a second? For the first time since childhood, she sounded small. Claire didn't turn around. A moment later, Richard Monroe stepped forward and placed a firm hand on Ethan's shoulder. You may want to reconsider your priorities, he said plainly. Ethan looked at Victoria. Then at me. He didn't speak. But his silence said everything. It didn't protect her. It exposed her. Victoria broke down in the hallway. I saw it later on camera, her pressing her back against the mirrored wall, sliding slowly to the floor. Her makeup streaked. Her voice cracked into something raw and unpolished. I didn't stop. I didn't look back. I walked right past her. Head high. Heels steady. Pulse unreadable. That night, I returned home and turned off every light except the kitchen. The silence felt different now. Not empty. Earned. I brewed tea and sat at the counter, watching steam curl into the air. My phone buzzed. One message. From my father. Thomas, can we talk? I hesitated, then hit call. He answered immediately. Hi, princess. I didn't respond. There was a pause. I just think maybe, don't push things further, okay, he said carefully. It's still her birthday week. That was it. Not I'm proud of you. Not you handled that with grace. Just, don't make waves. I laughed softly into the phone. I stood right in front of all of you, I said quietly, and you still didn't see me. He sighed. It's not like that. It's exactly like that, I replied. It always has been. We just want the family to stay intact, he said. I cut in gently. It's never been intact. It's been built around Victoria like a house of cards. He didn't deny it. I'm not angry, I said, surprising even myself. I'm just done. You don't mean that, he replied. I do. I ended the call. Slid the phone into the drawer beside my sink. Closed it gently. Outside, New Orleans blinked back to life. Jazz floated through the air from a bar down the street. Laughter. Distant music. The kind of song that makes you ache and breathe at the same time. I stood on the porch with my tea, watching the city exist without me needing to explain myself to it. I didn't lose my family. I stopped asking them to show up. 2 weeks passed. No headlines. No public apology. Just quiet. The good kind. The kind that settles instead of echoes. I sat at my kitchen table one morning, sorting contracts, sipping lukewarm coffee, when an email subject line caught my eye. "I'm sorry, Thomas Brooks." I opened it. "You were right. I should have stood up. I'm sorry. Dad, no excuses. No deflection. No, you know how your sister is. Just one sentence. Late, but clean." I read it 5 times. Then I deleted it. And smiled. Somerset hadn't slowed down. If anything, business surged. 3 weddings booked back-to-back. 2 corporate galas. 1 high-profile fundraiser with local media sniffing around. Naomi walked into my office, tablet in hand. "We've got a request from Claire Monroe's niece," she said. "She asked for you directly." "Of course she did," I replied. "We'll take good care of her." I meant it. That evening, my phone lit up with a push notification from a wedding industry blog. Influencer event cancelled. Somerset denies involvement. Speculation mounts around sudden collapse of a luxury brand. They didn't mention Victoria by name. They didn't need to. Out of curiosity, I checked her social media. Her latest video was still up, but the energy was gone. No makeup. No music. Comments turned off. She stared into the camera for almost 2 full minutes before speaking. I didn't watch it all. Not because I couldn't. Because I didn't need to. There was no satisfaction. No anger. Just air. I closed the app and set my phone face down on the counter. Then I walked outside with a glass of wine, letting the evening air wrap around me like a slow exhale. The porch was warm, washed in the orange glow of the setting sun. Wind moved gently through the live oaks lining the street, their leaves whispering like they knew something I didn't need to chase anymore. That morning, I'd driven past my parents' house. Slowed down for half a second. Didn't stop. Not because I was angry. Because I didn't feel the pull anymore. For years, I thought peace would come when people apologized. When the truth finally came out. When the scales tipped back in my favor and everyone admitted I'd been right. But peace is quieter than that. Peace is walking away when no one asks you to. Peace is deleting the message without replying. Peace is saying no and not explaining why. I sipped my wine and watched the light fade. If there's one thing I learned through all of this, it's that peace doesn't come when people finally treat you right. It comes when you start treating yourself like you matter. For years, I thought loyalty meant silence. That being a good daughter, a good sister, meant making myself smaller so others could shine brighter. But shrinking never saved anyone. You can love your family and still draw a line. You can walk away without hating them. You can stop chasing validation from people who never bothered to see you clearly. I didn't win by being louder. I won by finally listening to myself. Somerset continued to thrive. Every weekend brought new faces, new stories, new beginnings. I walked through the halls with ease now, no longer bracing myself for interruptions or expectations that didn't belong to me. One afternoon, Naomi caught up with me near the garden entrance. "You okay?" she asked quietly. I smiled, not the polite kind, not the practiced kind. The real one. "I'm better than okay," I said. She studied my face for a second, then nodded. "Yeah. I can see that." My phone buzzed later that evening. Another message from my father. I didn't open it. I didn't delete it either. I let it sit, proof that I finally had a choice. And that choice felt like freedom. I started saying no more often. No to last-minute favors. No to emotional ambushes disguised as concern. No to being the backup plan when someone else failed to show up. Each no felt lighter than the last. Weeks passed. Then one quiet afternoon, I received a notification from a business journal. Somerset listed among top emerging luxury venues in the South. I stared at the headline longer than I expected. Not because I needed the validation, but because it reminded me how far I'd come without asking anyone for permission. I forwarded the link to Naomi. She replied with one word, earned. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with the windows open, the sounds of New Orleans drifting in, music, laughter, life. I thought about the girl I used to be. The one who thought love was measured by sacrifice. The one who thought being needed meant being valued. The one who confused guilt with gratitude. She did the best she could with what she knew. But I didn't have to live by her rules anymore. I took another sip of wine and leaned back in my chair. Somewhere out there, my sister was rebuilding her image. My parents were telling a softer version of the story. And I was no longer part of the narrative they controlled. That was the real win. Peace didn't arrive with fireworks. It didn't announce itself. It settled in quietly, like a house finally standing on solid ground. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for anyone to knock on the door. Morning came slow and quiet. I sat at my kitchen table, coffee in hand, sunlight stretching across the counter. Somerset was humming in the background, orders coming in, flowers being arranged, staff moving with that calm precision I'd worked so hard to create. But here, in this small moment, the world felt like it belonged entirely to me. I didn't need recognition from anyone else. I didn't need applause. I didn't need anyone to see the late nights, the long hours, or the sacrifices that went into building this life. That life existed because I had fought for it, because I had learned to stand for myself when nobody else would. For years, I had thought being loyal meant silence. That being a good daughter, a good sister, meant shrinking into the background so others could shine. I had carried guilt for decisions that weren't mine, for choices that were made at my expense. I had let them define my worth. But now, standing firmly in my own life, I understood that loyalty doesn't mean giving yourself away. Strength doesn't mean enduring quietly. Love doesn't mean self-erasure. I reached for my laptop and opened my calendar. Contracts, meetings, bookings, everything was laid out in neat order. Each decision, each task, a reflection of my own authority. My hands moved with confidence, my mind free of the tension that had haunted me for years. I smiled faintly, not because life was perfect, but because it was mine, completely and undeniably mine. Earlier in the week, I had received a message from Victoria. Nothing dramatic, nothing urgent. Just a short note, almost like a test, can we talk? I didn't respond. Not because I was vindictive, but because I didn't have to explain myself. Peace isn't about revenge. Peace is about choosing your own path, even if others demand your attention or loyalty. I thought about my parents. About their expectations, their assumptions, and the unspoken debts they placed on me as if I owed them compliance or admiration. I realized that forgiveness doesn't require contact, and love doesn't require submission. I could love them and still hold firm boundaries. That understanding brought a serenity I had never known as a child. Later, I walked through Somerset, observing staff arranging tables, polishing glassware, checking lighting. Each movement was purposeful, practiced, and mine to orchestrate. Naomi caught my eye and gave a slight nod, a silent acknowledgement of what we had achieved. She didn't need to say a word. We both knew the battles fought behind closed doors, the challenges we had navigated, and the triumph of being in control of our narrative. I went upstairs to my office and looked at the framed photos of past events lining the shelves. Weddings, galas, fundraisers, moments captured in time, a testament to dedication and resilience. None of these accomplishments had been validated by my family or anyone else. They didn't have to be. They were mine. I had earned them. I had built them. The final piece of closure came quietly that evening. I opened social media to check notifications, not for drama, but out of curiosity. Victoria's accounts were muted, her posts sparse, her energy subdued. She had not recovered the stage she had tried to claim. The empire she thought she could access through entitlement and audacity was not hers to command. I didn't gloat. I didn't celebrate publicly. I simply acknowledged reality. The actions we take define the outcomes, not the declarations we make in anger or arrogance. I poured a glass of wine and stepped out onto the porch. The air was warm, carrying the faint scent of gardenia and the distant hum of the city. I breathed in deeply, feeling the weight of years lifting from my shoulders. I had survived expectation, betrayal, and manipulation. I had survived being underestimated and undervalued. And now, I existed fully in the life I had fought to create. For anyone watching, reading, or listening, those who have ever felt invisible, overlooked, or trapped by the assumptions of others, know this: your worth is not defined by the people who fail to see you. Your life is yours to build, your boundaries are yours to draw, and your peace is yours to claim. The real power isn't in revenge or confrontation, it's in living fully, clearly, and unapologetically. I raised my glass to the horizon as the sun dipped below the city skyline. Not as a toast to victory over someone else, but as a celebration of myself. For standing tall when it mattered, for listening to my inner voice, for choosing peace over conflict, and for finally understanding that the only approval I truly needed was my own. And so, for the first time in years, I felt completely free. I didn't need to explain. I didn't need to justify. I didn't need anyone else to validate my choices. I was enough. I was seen. I was whole. And that, I realized, was the real revenge. Walking away clean. Standing in my own power. And knowing, without a doubt, that no one could ever take it away from me.